Good morning, everybody. It's July 6th. Yes, it is. The spectacular news of the moment is the Texas floods, where the death toll of this girls' camp and maybe a few others along the way, with this huge flash flooding that has occurred. And now, they're gonna go through all the, who knew what, when, and all that kind of stuff. The National Weather Service, insists that everyone was given ample warning, albeit 1 hour, if you weren't paying attention. If you didn't have your earplugs in, you didn't get the message. Terrible. A girls' camp. Summer camp. 50 dead and 26 girls missing. Well, I guess you may as well get that death toll up to 70-something. Because, a couple of days later, this is Friday, and this is now Sunday. So 2 days later, 26 girls are missing. If I were the parents of those girls, I'm afraid I wouldn't be too optimistic. I guess someone could be hung up in some branches somewhere, but, wow. Flash flooding. Texas is flat. If it's flat, not so flat, you can have, you get a lot of rain. This particular area of Texas gets like, I think 26 to 28 inches a year in rain. And on Friday, they got like 10 inches of rain within like an hour or three, And that's just a lot of water. And it's got to go somewhere. And it flash floods. This is an insignificant example, but even in I would call it a urban area of Boca Raton, North Boca Raton on 20th Street. It rains hard, real fast. 20th Street is underwater, about 2 feet. Now, it's not 10, 20, 40 feet. It's 2 feet. But when you're not, when you're going up and down Federal Highway and all of a sudden you come across, you're heading north from here, and all of a sudden you come up with 2 feet of water. Needless to say, the traffic slows down a bit, and some cars can't make it. So if they don't make it, guess what? The ones behind them aren't going to make it, even if they're crazy enough to give it a try. So best thing to do is to go up Dixie Highway instead of Federal Highway. Some reason or other, there's just a dip in the road, for about half a mile. So you got 2,000 feet of road going north and south that just gets underwater if it rains hard. I'm just talking rains hard. Because we get 60 inches of rain here in South Florida. We're in the subtropics. And but if we get 60 inches a year, but if we get a 10-inch rain in a couple hours, federal highway's underwater. Simple as that. Just a matter how many feet. Robotaxi. Experts are asked to comment on the how Robotaxi launch is doing in Austin, Texas. There's a picture of the Robotaxi, which is basically a Model Y. But if we do a little expando, there's someone in the front seat. That's a Tesla observer who files his own report, probably with Tesla. But there's no one in the driver's seat. The people are in the back seat. And there were, let's say, several hundred trailblazers that were offered opportunities, invitations to fly into Austin, experiment with the Robotaxi, which is apparently a flat fee of $4.25 to drive 12 or 15 miles from one edge of the geofenced area to another, anywhere you want, any address. But there was a 50 square mile area that was geofenced in the southern part of Austin, not including the airports. So you could hail it, similar, although extremely different from the way you would request a ride from a Robotaxi, and all of a sudden, 3 minutes later, a car would, ride an empty vehicle with a passenger in the front passenger seat, but no one in the driver's seat. Would pull up in front of you. You'd hop in. It would require that you put on your seatbelt, or else it wouldn't give you the next step, which means go. And then between the front seats of the car, there was a display. The back end of the console area, there's a screen where you could direct the air conditioning vents, the airflow of the vents, and also a black screen with a circle on it with a start. Press to start. And then you press to start, and then there you go. The Robotaxi would take off and go to, wherever you asked it to go. And then, so people riding all over Austin, southern Austin, in a Robotaxi, which was slated to start in the beginning, and sometime in June. Of course, now it's July. So it was like the last week of June. They got it rolling out. People are now starting to write reports. The only thing severe that I noticed from looking at those reports is that if you were driving into the sun, if you were driving east to west, and the sun was setting in the west, and it was right down at the horizon, and you're driving into the into the sun, the robotaxi would come to a sudden and fast stop, right in the middle of the road, even though there was no stop sign or red light or anything. And it was a hard stop, like an emergency stop. It didn't turn left, it didn't turn right. It was just a hard stop. And if you had anything on the seat next to you, it would end up on the floor in the seat next to you. And there were 2 or 3 of those episodes. So there's something in the software that, with the front cameras facing some excessive glare like sunset on a clear day, it would just jam up the software just for an instant and put the car into a dead stop, like an emergency stop. And reports of that could be, a sudden rear collision, because the guy riding behind you, if there was one, in theory, could jam right up in the back end of the car. There was no note of any accidents, but one lady was, doing a broadcast from the robotaxi for her audience, and whoosh, you saw her jolt forward. The car was only going like 25 miles an hour, but still, this sudden hard stop. Wheels are screeching. Yeah, so that's the only thing that I heard of that needs to be checked out. That should be a relatively simple issue. There you go, 51 dead, 27 girls missing. Ouch. This flash flood started at 1:18 in the afternoon, Central Time. And, 5 to 7 inches of rain. 1:44, the first warnings of life-threatening flash flooding for KERR, Kerrville, Texas. Triggering emergency alert system warnings. Anyway, so, oops. Yeah, that's a big problem. You can see, look at that. This is, a couple of days later, but you can see the effects of tremendous flash flooding. I mean, this is flash flooding extraordinaire. Meteorologists say the National Weather Service did its job in Texas. All they can do is tell you. They can't make you do things. And people were caught in all kinds of compromising positions, if you will. And this camp, the way they were, all set up, launched to go do things, at 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, on a Friday, and all of a sudden, you get 30, 40 feet of water coming at you. The only reason I put this picture in here, in our little pictogram, is that if anything doesn't give you the heebie-jeebies more than anything, it's this right here. So I do a print screen of the print screen and just zero in on this guy's neck. Youch! If the Chinese ever wanted to, if they ever caught me and said, we want you to talk, and if you don't talk, this is what we're gonna put 4 mosquitoes in a dark room, and we're gonna let them bite you. I said, please don't. I'll tell you whatever you want to know. Just don't do that to me. Oh my God. I don't know smart ways to repel mosquitoes. get inside. Shut the windows, turn on the air conditioner, get out of there. You know, it's so, oh God. I literally get the heebie-jeebies just looking at that picture. Oh God. Jeez. This is released by Bug MD. How about that for a Bug MD advertisement? Yes, I'll buy it. I promise I'll buy it. Give me 2 cases of it. All right. The iPhone 17 Pro Max. We're getting into July, August, September. Oh my God. We are T-minus 8 weeks and counting. I mean, literally 8 weeks. Ouch. This is July. We just had July 4th, which, let me tell you, the Boca Raton Resort had the most spectacular fireworks display. I mean, from our balcony, looking, southeast, about a 45-degree angle, but not straight up, just comfortably up. The fireworks display, which goes for 10 minutes or something like that, 15 minutes. Let me see if I can, there we go. Can we just stop epidemic for a moment? Well, I mean, it's so amazing. I happen to catch, if you have any head, like earphones or real good stereo system that you can replay this broadcast, that is just so spectacular. Oh my God. Oh, jeez. We'll turn back on epidemic. Anyway, this was caught with my trusty iPhone Pro Max 16. And you can see these beautiful, but you can, if you have, it is unbelievable, the sound, the video display is pretty good, adjusting to the auto light features. These videos keep repeating, so, which is pretty nice. I've got some, with the, I'm changing the telephoto. See the rooftops of this, the Alina condo project is like in front of us, 2 blocks in front of us. And then the fireworks display is like 2 blocks. I would rather be where we were. It was so, the explosions were so percussive. I mean, I was looking to see if our windows were going to break. I swear, it was just, I don't know, with my body is, I asked, Daniel and Marilyn were with me during this, and they were equally impressed. I mean, it was just about as the biggest bang you can, from a distance, you hear the fireworks and it's beautiful and it's more of a visual display than anything else. But, where we're located, and I knew, we watched 5 or 6 years worth of these fireworks displays. I had to bring it up, but let's see, 2017, something like that. Ooh, 7 years ago, in June, 7 years ago, I had my heart attack. So then about a year after that, let's see if I can find my, there's an app here I marked. I reset it. It's like when you stop smoking cigarettes. Let's see if I can find it with, here, quit. There it is. There's the app right there. 7 years, 1 month, and 1 hour and 20. Can you see this, sports fans? Let's get rid of this. And let's get back to my Facebook disappeared on me, huh? Too bad. Your loss. Anyway, go full screen on this one, will you? There you go. On June 5th, I reset this counter. See, 6/6, June 6th, at 7 a.m. That was when I went into surgery, and I came out at 6 p.m. Can you imagine? I came out of the surgery into the post-surgery intensive care unit, 12 hours later. And by 8 p.m., I was released into the intensive care unit, which is one level. Oh boy. So that's why I have 6/6/2018. At 7 a.m. I went and I became what I call a quadruple bypass surgery survivor. All patients don't survive that surgery, I have come to learn. My cardiologist was careful not to tell me what the mortality rate is of that surgery. Boy. But at the time, a pack of cigarettes was $9.50. Ouch. For a 20 cigarette pack. So from those settings, we come to the status. And because of that, I saved $12,288 in the cost of cigarettes, and I did not smoke 25,870 cigarettes. It counts, Gosh. 28 grams of nicotine. I avoided 127 grams of carbon monoxide, and 439 grams of tar. I can press the health button here. My blood pressure and pulse rate drops to normal. 100% of that is accomplished. Now, I dropped to normal, but I'm still hypertensive. So I would have been hypertensive squared if I was still smoking. Temperature, hands and feet have now returned to normal. That's 100% accomplished. Carbon monoxide and oxygen levels, 100% accomplished. Both levels return to normal, except for me, because I have a blood oxygen issue. You know, I walk up and down the hallway fast, and I'm not huffing and puffing, but I'm, you know, you can tell, you know, when your system is not getting enough oxygen. It's somewhat of a different sensation. You know, it's a little more of a panicky feeling, honestly. And the only way you can, well, there are two ways you can stop the panicky feeling, and that is stop doing what you're doing so that your system can, you know, but you know, you can feel labored breathing, even though you're not breathing that fast. So that's, if you wonder why these people, you know, are scooting around in wheelchairs, electric wheelchairs or whatever, with oxygen stuck in their noses. That's why. Now, I don't need a oxygen thing hanging from my shoulder with, you know, the two little nose things under your nose, whatever they call that. Annoying way of dispensing oxygen. It's an interesting, you know, so you can carry around an oxygen concentrator. I have one that Medicare provides, so that if I go in a car, you know, a long car ride, and I become stricken with this need of oxygen, I have it with me. It's more of a placebo effect, because if I have it, I probably won't need it. If I'm sitting down in a car, you know, I wouldn't have such a sensation. But if I get up and I, you know, start doing a lot of things around the place, and, you know, I empty out the kitty litter thing, and I'm carrying around a 10-pound bag of, you know, gravel, you know, for the cats, or I walk up and down, you know, it is, let's see, about 65. I was told a long time ago, or read a long time ago, that if you're in a building of any sort, a building that you go to often, for example, like your apartment, and if you want to find out, you know, you want to be able to get, so when I come out my front door of the apartment, if I turn right and I walk 65 steps, you know, crouch down, you know, because of the smoke or whatever, and I have 65 full steps, and put your hand out, you'll be putting your hand right into the emergency exit stairway, which has positive pressure, so that there would be no smoke in the stairwell. So you could get to the stairwell with no smoke, and not actually have to go down the steps. If you know, if you got a lot of smoke in it, if you got a smoke to fill the corridors on the 8th floor of a building, get the hell out. And I would open up the doors of my sliding glass doors so the cats could get out on the patio instead of, suffocating with smoke poisoning if they were smart enough to get on the balcony. And I would be there not there to encourage them to get out on the patio. Hopefully they'd be smart enough to do it. In such case, we'd have to walk down 8 flights of stairs. Slowly. I wouldn't be able to do it fast. I would have to bring my oxygen with me. Yeah. Ooh. Nasty thought. The risk of heart attack. The risk of sudden heart attack decreases significantly. 100% accomplished. Smell and taste have returned to normal. 100% accomplished. Lung function increases. So you'd have a 30% increase in your lung function from where it was to where it would be. 100% accomplished. Less symptoms. Your overall energy increases. Symptoms like coughing and nasal congestion, other forms of fatigue. 100% accomplished. Everything is 100%. Half. I have half the risk of heart disease. 100% accomplished. Half the risk of lung cancer. 100% accomplished. Precancerous cells are replaced with good ones. 71% accomplished. And I'll be 100% accomplished in 2 more years, 10 months, and 30 days. According to the National Weather Service. Heart attack risk reduced in 47% accomplished. 7 more years and 10 months. My risk of heart disease is 100% reduced. I'm halfway there. That one. Everything else is accomplished. This is according to the Quit app. You set your goals, and it sets signals to my iPads and my iPhones and my MacBook. If I wanted to buy a MacBook, I achieved that 5 years ago, where I can go out and spend $2,200 and $2,279 on a new MacBook Pro because of the $2,000 I saved and not smoking cigarettes. Now there's an excuse to go buy something. It tells me here I saved $12,200. I mean, it's amazing. It's disgusting that for the 7 years, $12,000 spread out over 7 years, you go into a place and buy a pack of cigarettes. Oh my God. I have not done that. Well, Marilyn has just emerged. She's going to the beach, eh? Okay. See you soon. She's in silent mode. We're not in the silent movies. You can talk. She got her beach hat, her beach purse. Be careful. Don't worry about her going to the beach. I can't go to the beach. My doctor said, no more beach for you. Forget not even under an umbrella. I have a very good friend of mine. I woke up from shortly after my quadruple bypass surgery. My doctor, they know who's getting surgeries. The surgery schedules apparently get circulated around somehow in the medical community. And because when you're having the surgery, you're certainly not calling all your friends and all your doctors to say, oh, by the way, you're going in for quadruple bypass. It's a rather sudden thing. You're sitting on a couch and all of a sudden you kind of like grab your chest. No, I didn't have one of these severe pain things where you fall on your face rolling in pain. No, I was sitting on a couch watching the news, unagitated, and just watching Brett Baer and the 6 o'clock news. And at 6:05, just barely getting through some of the headlines, and my watch went off. And, with an alert, like your pulse is up to 150. I didn't actually notice. I noticed something, but I wasn't sure what. But my watch alarm went off, and then my iPhone went off because the watch went off. I figured, oh crap, where's my... So I put my blood pressure cuff on because my watch doesn't check for blood pressure, although the new one is supposed to. Imagine 7 years later, now they're adding blood pressure. It's not going to give you a value. It's just going to tell you when it's gone up or gone down significantly. So anyway, I don't know how it knows it. I think I know how it does that. Anyway, so my watch went off. I did a blood pressure. It was 200/100. I said, uh-oh, that's not good. Rapid pulse, because my blood pressure is like super high. The second number is the killer. The 200 is one, but the other one, where the baseline, the diastolic measure, when it's at 100 or 110, now I think it was like 190/110. And so that 110 is bad because that means that your blood pressure is constant. That's the pressure between the heartbeats. The 200 one, that was during the heartbeat. And that's one thing. But when it never gets below 110 for this, slice in time, that can cause a stroke, and the stroke can be a killer because a stroke is a broken artery in your brain, and when it bleeds in your brain, it squeezes. It like creates a big puddle, and it pushes the brain towards the interior of your skull, which is immovable, essentially. And it just squeezes. It's like squeezing blood out of a sponge, and it just stops your organs, and you just die because they can't open up your head fast enough as to find out where the leak is. And if they open up your head, you just, you'd be massive loss of blood, and you die because of that. So it's like death squared. So that's called a heart attack. Your heart is doing something for unknown reason. So what do? They give you nitroglycerin. They get an IV in you right away, and they give you a drip of nitroglycerin and a drip of heparin. Heparin is an anticoagulant. make sure you don't have blood clots forming. And the nitroglycerin dilates all your capillaries. So if your capillaries are all dilated, that has a tendency to reduce the blood pressure, pretty much instantly. Because your capillaries dilate, so it lets all the cells go through more rapidly, dropping the pressure pretty quickly, almost immediately. What you would do, I have a bottle of aspirin. It's packed in a yellow jar, the full strength 350 milligram aspirin from Bayer aspirin. And what you should do is suck on those. Put 2 or 3 of those in your mouth and start sucking, or chew them if you can chew them up. Get that acetyl acid in your system ASAP. Put 2 of those in your mouth and start sucking on them right away. You might even hammer them with a spoon first, and put that in your mouth. It tastes terrible, but it's a matter of life and death, so to speak. So you're, that's what you do. I have the bottle right. I know exactly where it is up in my medicine cabinet. So if I have, my doctor, my cardiac surgeon said, Jimmy, your heart is in good shape. We really did 4 magnificent bypasses for you. And you're good to go, for about 30 years. And 30 years from 7 years ago puts me at 110. My cardiologist says I'm good till 94. And my cardiac surgeon says I'm good to 110 because they use mammary glands up here in the upper part of my chest instead of arteries that come out of your legs. Since the mammary glands are all closer to your heart, the arteries are closer. Be careful. The arteries are closer to the exact architecture of the arteries in your heart, or coming into the heart. Didn't you know? And so they strip out arteries that are up in your upper chest, feeding the muscles in your chest, which it regrows them when they strip a couple of those out. They only need 4 of them, so and they're like 2 inches long. So it's not like they're, pulling out 2 foot. But, so they, automatically they'll strip out a couple arteries from your legs. But my cardiac surgeon is up to snuff on these things. And he said, well, we took the arteries out from your upper chest, which are most similar to the arteries that are feeding your heart, and in which case they're good for 35 years. Then you have to get retreads. Then they got to go in and replace the bypasses. No. So you're going to die from something, but it ain't heart related. It'll be because something else fell off. So many people die from trip and fall, falling on your face, falling on your head, rather. People slip. When you get older, you get a little, what I call wobbly. So you get a little wobbly. So you gotta steady yourself, keep yourself on firm ground, You know, the best dog breeds for your zodiac sign. I gotta click on that article. What the heck? So this is from pets.com. Okay. Pisces. Let's see what kind of a dog a Pisces needs. All right, can we do this simply? Jack Russell for... No, don't tell me this. You're typically confident, fiery, independent, and occasionally wild. And you appreciate the Jack Russell Terrier desire. No. Nope. Not me. The best breeds are 12 to 14 year lifespan, 9 to 15 pounds in weight, 12 inches high, energetic, fearless, and stubborn. No, that's not a dog I want. No. April, no. This is Cocker Spaniel, right? The mountain dog. Best breeds, they give you it's a ratty looking, it's a pretty ratty looking dog. No, there, look at that little booger. I grew up with a Cocker Spaniel, that's what that looks like. Yeah, King Charles, the Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. Look at that. Smart looking dog. I had a black one. Black with a little white. Cocker Spaniel when I grew up as a young lad. Real young. You know, like 0 to 10. And then died and we got miniature, God, what else? Little guys, we'll see them soon. Pomeranian, German Shepherd. They all seem to be lifespan 10 to 12 years. 10 to 12 years, everything's 10 to 12 years. Doberman Pinscher, no. No, we don't want dogs that big. 10 to 12 years, my God. 12 to 14 years. Was the look at that. Beautiful big dog. Oh yeah, the poodle. We had miniature poodle. I think one of them. Yeah. The Cocker Spaniel was called Topsy. I remember that was the name of Topsy. Where they come up with that name, I'll never know. Someone named him Topsy, and that was our. And Suzette. It was my mother gave the name of that dog for a miniature black poodle. Beautiful. You see the way they do the cutting the hair away from around the eyes makes the dog go blind. The dog is supposed to look through the hair, so don't cut the hair away from around the eyes, even though that. You know, the traditional, cut where it's real short on the legs and little puppy feet. If you get that kind of hairdo, and don't cut around the eyes. Let the hair be all over the face, like it's naturally supposed to, and your dog will be able to see for its entire lifespan. Let's see. Yeah, see a poodle, 10 to 18 years. So that's so far the longest lifespan I've seen. Speed reading through these things. That's it. So look at that. The Greyhound. Look at that. February 19th to March 20. The Greyhound is that's the type dog I should have based on my zodiac sign. Well, go figure that, huh? Whew. Standard poodle, and then it goes, so poodle or greyhound is a good trait. I was thinking more like, what's that dog with the little curly back tail? Yeah. Golden Retriever, look at that. Dogs are so responsive to the human instinct. And the Golden Retriever makes an excellent guard dog. It's got really good ears, really good nose. Look at the length of that nose. It can smell things a mile away. German Shepherd, same way. Those dogs are excellent guard dogs. Those Pomeranians, I think they can be a little noisy. Cocker Spaniel's a nice dog. Big enough to take care of itself. Jack Russell, they're noisy little yippy, you take them out for a walk, it's pulling on your leash so hard, it's hard to even take the dog out for a walk. It'd probably pull me over right on my buttski. Yeah. So here's an exciting story for you. Tomatoes in Galapagos Islands appear to be evolving in reverse. Okay, what could that possibly mean? A newly documented example of wild growing tomatoes on the black rocks of Galapagos gives researchers a prime example of a species adapting by rolling back genetic changes put into place over millions of years. Oh, that's interesting. So you can see the DNA of the tomato plant going backwards in time because they're growing on the black rock of Galapagos, which means that I tell you can read through these articles and they never answer the question. You can read on and on and on and they don't tell you. I don't know how they come up with these. It's like they make up the titles and it has nothing to do with the story. That makes me crazy when these authors do that. And they go on, they tell you all about the guy that wrote the article and is, from the University of California, Riversdale, the Weizmann Institute for Science, and what? They don't tell you. I hate that. It happens all the time. And I read articles from all kinds of different publications, because, because I have Flipboard, where I have a whole bunch of different kinds of publications, and here it says, I'm ditching Waze for my in-car infotainment system in my electronic car, and here's why. Do you remember the days of Waze? Of course. Tells you where the police are and all that. That's a reason to keep it. Telling you, let's see, so far they're not telling me why 80% of the car buyers, racks up, no wonder Google, however, Google owns Waze, I think. I'm pretty sure of that. I have Waze in my, I believe Waze is an app that you can run. Oh, well, you can run it on your phone. Yeah. I have one of those thingies I put, you stick on with a super glue tape. And then it magnetically, you can attach your phone to it and run Waze on that. And and otherwise you use the system that the Tesla autopilot. The autopilot feature is just, I was demonstrating it to Marilyn. You put in the address, you can, it has your go to work address, and it has your go home address. And from anywhere you can be, and you can press go home, home, just press home button, and it'll take you home. It'll take you right to the front door of the building. It'll turns left, turn right. It stops for stop signs. It changes lanes with signals. It's got eyes everywhere, and you can see in all directions at all the same time. What's not to like? Keeps you right smack in the middle of the lane, in your lane. If a car gets close to you, your car will swerve a little bit out of the way of it automatically. It's, and you have your hands. It's a very strong attachment to your steering wheel. So don't worry about the steering wheel knows that you're applying some pressure to it, below which would cause a disengagement of the system. And if you disengage it, by your steering wheel, it says it chimes with a message. So why the hell did you disengage me? I mean, you leave out the word hell. Why have you disengaged the system? And it wants you to give an audio reply, because it will then deliver, a snapshot of what happened just before and after the disengagement. And if you're, studious enough to give the system an answer of why it disengaged, then that gets sent on to Fremont, California, and there's a building full of people that receive these disengagement messages with a snippet of what happened before, during, and after the disengagement, to find out if there's anything it can do to reproduce that scenario so that you wouldn't disengage. The only time I've disengaged, actually, is not because I was afraid that the system was driving me into an accident scenario or driving too fast or too close to the edge of the road, or, I've not had reason. The only reason to disengage in my examples is because I changed my mind. I wanted to go to a different address. We're riding down the road and, oh yeah, let's stop there and have, coffee and biscuit instead of wherever the heck we were going to on the autopilot. So it's not a system fault. It was we just changed our mind and want to go somewhere else, or thought we wanted to go somewhere else. But it's the system is incredibly capable of driving the car, and it gives you a pretty much spectacular. Cybertruck tailgates are getting stuck. I saw a black one that had a black wrap on it. You know how they put, I don't know what it is, but they put a skin onto the stainless steel, and it was a black, a jet black wrap, and it kind of looked okay, because the black doesn't reflect a lot of light, so it doesn't make it quite so annoyingly odd shaped. It's a car ahead of its time, as to the the hard angles of that sucker. And it's broken up into a series of triangles. Anyway, I'm not a real big fan of. Let's get out of here. Of the Cybertruck. When you get in the Cybertruck, it's just like sitting in a Model Y. You sit up a tad higher, of course. But it's. I was going to say all the buttons are in the same place. There aren't any buttons. Everything is on the big 15.5-inch screen. I think in the Cybertruck it might be a 17-inch screen. I'm making that up. I think it's a slightly larger screen in the middle. Elon Musk announces a new America Party. A little bit of a split from the Democrats and the Republicans, and we have the America Party, which is going to do nothing but take votes away from both, and maybe cause an issue. I don't know what it's going to pull more from Republicans or Democrats. Jessica Simpson has lost 100 pounds, and now she takes on, helped by Ozempic. I'll tell you, it works. I take Ozempic because of the blood sugar. It makes me so I don't need insulin or metformin. I don't need any chemical methods of modifying my blood sugar. Metformin is, one of those. I have a big bottle of metformin. It's filled right to the top, and cap is sealed tight up top, so the cap won't pop off. Not that that could happen, unless it fell out of the cabinet. So I got a whole bottle of metformins if I ever decided to do it, which I will not. You know, I was taking 2 a day, 500 milligrams morning, 500 milligrams in the evening, in an attempt to manage my blood sugar. Well, it got to the point where it wasn't managing it. You know, my blood sugar management system in my body was not capable of keeping my blood sugar where it needed to be, which is somewhere between, you know, at the number 100. You know, 90, 95, 100, 110, 150, fine. But if you get over 250, which is, you know, high blood sugar, and even higher, you know, you become hypoglycemic. You know, and it could make you pass out, or if your blood sugar goes low. You know. You would stop taking Ozempic if your blood sugar was getting too low. Mine, you know, it really balances out right about 95 to 105. It swings up and down in a relatively controlled, even keel. And if you were to, you know, eat a bowl of ice cream, it would blip up to like 150. You know, it wouldn't blip up to 450. So it's interesting how whatever goes into your system, like ice cream, which you shouldn't eat, Camp Mystic, MYSTIC, Camp Mystic. I just saw a picture of a Camp Mystic sweatshirt folded around a rock. Camp Mystic. That's the 50 plus people killed, plus 27 campers missing. They call them campers. They're like girls. It's a girls' camp. You got boys' camps and you have girls' camps. There was a few years, you know, like 9, 10, 11, or 8, 9, 10, or 10, 11, 12. Seems like I went to a boys' camp. I went to camp for a couple of years. They didn't send me to a boys' camp because I was a bad boy. I wasn't a bad boy. I went to camp because my parents were trying to give me something to do because I was, you know, an active little sucker. And they do all kinds of things in these camps. You know, and they're very regimented. You know, you get up at 6 in the morning. You learn how to make your bed like a military kind of, you know, real firm, you know, folding of the sheets and the bed pillows. And let's see what this article. I did a calculation on the big new tax thing. It said no tax on Social Security. Not the way they wrote it up in this big, beautiful bill. Because I applied it to my actual scenario, being an under $400,000 a year person. And it doesn't cover all the tax burden. Nope. Covers some of it, something's better than nothing. It's a couple of $1,000 benefit, but it doesn't, what they're doing is they're giving you a bigger standard deduction by up to like $10,000 a year. So it's not a tax credit, it's an income abatement. So you take the standard deduction, which is like $34,000. And this new tax law, it gives you an extra $10,000 or $12,000. Well, $12,000 of decrease in taxable income as opposed to it not being there doesn't amount to paying all the Social Security tax, income tax that I'd be paying. So I don't know who did that formula, but it doesn't work for, I get about $3,000 a month in Social Security benefit. And this new tax proposal you get a $12,000 increase in your standard deduction. There's a phase out if you make over $150,000 a year. So if you make $175,000 a year, the 6% number comes down to another percentage. And if you make over $250,000 a year in earnings, it drops to another lower number. Anyway, it doesn't cover all Social Security. Beep. But it's, it just doesn't measure up to what his promise was. That's all I'm saying. He promised no tax on tips, no tax on, overtime, and no tax on Social Security. And I don't know if they have a phased in on no tax on tips, but it ain't working for Social Security. It is not giving me 100% benefit for no tax on. If they want to give me a deduction on income, give me a deduction, for all my Social Security earnings, which is $60,000 a year joint. So give me a $60,000 a year deduction, and that'll offset the $60,000 I have in Social Security. I mean, that's all I had to do. But they didn't do that. They gave me $12,000 instead of $60,000. So I get a 25% reduction in the effect of my no tax on Social Security. They didn't say we're going to discount your Social Security tax burden by 25%. They said no tax on Social Security. No, none. No, none equals zero. Well, they didn't do it. They only gave me a 25% benefit. Now, you had the big, beautiful bill and everything. You mean they actually negotiated down the Social Security benefit? Well, it certainly wasn't advertised like that. Now people are going to, the exact formula is being, distributed to everybody. I just went on TurboTax, and they answered the question. So I asked the question of TurboTax, what is the benefit? And the AI, artificial intelligence, it went to the official record, what's in the bill, the actual signed bill, and it's just as I told you. They give you a $12,000 if you're filing joint. If you're filing individual, you get a $6,000 benefit, meaning an offset on income. It's not tax. It's on income. And $12,000 is not $60,000. So I'm getting a 20%. He said no tax on Social Security, and I'm going to pay 80% of the tax on Social Security instead of 100% of the tax on Social Security. So that's something, a couple $1,000, but it's not $60,000. It should be sheltering all my. So I don't know if they're going to come up with another bill which will supplement what they've already passed. Where Social Security beneficiaries that are over 65 will get a $60,000, will get a deduction equal to the amount of your Social Security. In my case, it's almost to the penny. It's $60,000 a year. I'm about $29.50 a month, and Maryland is $3,030 a month. So you add them together, it's like six. It's $60,000 a year for us. So they're going to cover all my Social Security income tax. They should give me. And they're going to give me a credit on income, then I should get a $60,000 offset to my taxable income, which would mean no tax on Social Security. So what's up? I'm going to, file a concern. You said no tax on Social Security, and you didn't deliver that. Are they doing the same thing with the tips? Are they only going to give you 20% off on your tax on your tips? And the same with overtime? Or are they just slamming the senior citizens who are totally incapable of offsetting their lifestyle when you're frickin' 80 years old? What am I supposed to do? Get a part-time job to pay $48,000 a year in income that I'm paying tax on, that you promised I wouldn't be taxed on? Hey, come on. $115. No, what's going on here? 15 old school type restaurants that Anthony Bourdain adored. Okay, well, so. Pretend we're having coffee at Denny's. And It's your turn. It's your turn to talk. Know about the ingredients in vaccines. This is what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is extremely interested in making clear to people that take vaccine. It's not that he's against vaccines. He's against some of the things that accompany the medicine itself. There you go, see. I'm just pressing this right here. JFK advises. There are people that are advising JFK, don't be so worried about the thimerosal. Thimerosal. That's how that's pronounced. Thimerosal. Thimerosal. I think I put the accent on the second syllable. I may be not pronouncing that correctly. Thimerosal. It's kind of like there's no accent on any syllable. They're all equally pronounced. Thimerosal. 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 Yep. Maybe the accent is on the first syllable. Syllable, that would be on the second. Instead of syllable. Yeah. Syllable is supposed to be pronounced syllable, not syllable. I'm real, I was basically trained as a biochemist, biochemist, biology student. I was a pre-med student, and I was almost a chemical student, also a chemical student, and a physics student. Loved physics. Yeah, did all kinds of physics experiments. And anyway, so in my engineering lifespan that I've had, taking things apart at very young ages, like 10, I was taking apart clocks and black and white televisions. And I made, here's another V word, I made an X-ray machine when I was like 13. And I made it from Army surplus equipment. You know, I took a power supply basically out of a small black and white TV. I stripped out the power supply to create an electron beam inside an X-ray tube. And an X-ray tube is a tube that's like I went to the Army. I was telling my son Daniel how I did, because he wanted to know how the heck do you make an X-ray machine? Well, I'm going to show you. So I'm just going to take this out of here. This is my feather duster. I go around here and I get the dust off my equipment. Dust is the enemy of technology. Anyway, so pretend this is an X-ray tube. So, let's see if I can draw pictures. If I get the, Let's see if I get this. Can I draw? If I can draw lines. I want the pen tool. There doesn't seem to be a pen tool. Anyway, you saw FAU for you on there? Oh, let's try this. Oops, there's the fireworks. Let's get to, yeah, this right here. Now I can edit this one and use the pen tool. So let's expand this. So I'm going to draw pictures for you. Let's go full screen on this. Because this is like a blank screen underneath here. I can use that. And I can use my pen tool. Yeah, and I can draw. Look at that, see? And I can go backwards on that and get rid of that. Go backwards, yeah. So I'm going to change the color to black. And I'm going to change the pen to, well, something. All right, so we're going to, it's mustard yellow. I don't like that. I want black. Okay, so I'm just going to say that this is my X-ray tube. Okay? It's a square X-ray tube. It isn't square. Let's try again and see if it'll do it. That was not a very good example. So I'm going to start up in the middle here, and then it's going to have a rounded edge. But let's make it like a submarine. If I can draw something that looks like that. That's very strange. That looks like a turnip. All right, so we'll just go along with a square X-ray tube. This is an example. There we hold it. There we go. All right, so now inside that square X-ray tube is a conductor that comes through here. There's a conductor that comes this way. And there's a piece of tungsten. I actually should change that, let's say, to a blue. It already was blue. We'll make the tungsten green. Okay, so it's a tungsten plate at an angle, okay? And when electrons, which is the blue one here, when electrons, there we are, come in and it hits the tungsten plate that's at an angle like that, then guess what comes off here? X-rays. Yep. X-rays come off the tungsten plate. Now, I've never read anything anywhere that tells me why that's true. So when I was about 13 or 14 years old, these are pins that are coming out of the ends of the X-ray tube. And a couple of those pins, you apply electricity across the pins, and it will increase or decrease the amount of electrons that'll flow into hitting the tungsten plate. Okay? So you've got an anode and a cathode, and you have electrons going in this, from left to right. And when the electrons are flowing in the vacuum inside here, we'll make it this mustardy color inside here on all sides of this. Ooh, look at that dotted line. I never knew you could do a dotted line. Anyway, inside there, where the mustardy color is, that's an interesting effect. That's like automatic, which I don't want. Anyway, I'll just do dots all over everything, since we're on live television here. Inside, where all those little orange dots are, that's the vacuum of space. That tube is evacuated. There's a little port right here on the side of this vacuum tube where they suck out the air, and then the glass gets sealed up. So this is, an area where when they manufacture the X-ray tube, they have the tungsten plate, pure tungsten, doesn't have to be thick, like a 1/16 of an inch thick, something you could cut with, shears. Now, I didn't make, this is an X-ray tube. How about that? That's pretty crude. But you guys get the idea. We could, let's do X -ray tube, T-U-B-E, X-ray tube, not tuberculosis, for dentists. X-ray tube for dentists. Let's do the first primary search, and let's see if we can find something. Aha! Can and electron tube devices. Let's see if we can find one that looks like what I'm trying to describe to you all. Portable dental X-ray tube. Let's look at this one. I mean, that's like sideways. It wasn't exactly what I was hoping for. X-ray tube. Oh, here we go. This is it, right here. This is good right here. There we go. So here's pocket dentistry. So here's what I was kind of talking about. Yes, sir, Bob. Thank you. It's a diagram, you know. So we're going to do a print screen of this because it does. This gives you, you know, real physical dimensions of. You see the target, the thing marked target over there, and then so that gray piece right there, that's. We're going to make that red. So I'm just going to highlight this in red. This right here. That's the tungsten. Tungsten. It's a metal. It's a hard metal. It's, you know, like, it's like steel. It's like iron, steel. It's right on that side of the periodic table, you know, on the metal side. So you have a cathode here, which is heated up. That's a little, I'm looking over at this side right here. So we're going to do that in blue. So this right here, this business, well, that's kind of blocking it out. Let's not do that. Let's go back out of that. Or maybe we'll make the, where's the pen? We'll make the pen real fine. Let's do a double pinch. So we're going to, you know, this blue part right here. So this, you can't hardly see it, but anyway, the cathode is heated up. There's like a little filament in there. There's a focusing cup and filament. There's a little cup. A cup, apparently when they experimented making this X-ray tube, they decided to have, Jesus. There we go. That's Sister Judy calling Marilyn. It sounds like a gymnasium in there. Come on, reverse pinch. We're gonna. This is the blue filament. Yeah, we'll just make that a little bit brighter in the blue. Done. So we've got the cathode. So that's connected to, like, you know, 3 or 4 volts. You turn it up, and the filament glows a little brighter. You don't want to turn it up too much because it'll burn out the heating element, and then it kills the tube. So anyway, so that's a cup. It's almost like a reflector, so that when that heats up, and the cathode is in the circuit, the high voltage circuit, that's connected to the negative side. You see the little negative sign in the brackets. That's your positive and your negative. The anode is the positive. The cathode is the negative. Okay? And if you heat up the heating element with this metal cup, the electrons are caused. This is in vacuum now. This is evacuated, and this is a glass wall. This whole outline of this X-ray tube is a glass wall. The electrons then hit the tungsten, and X-rays go south. And that is, we should make that, you know, we'll make that a green color, because what we're trying to do is get X-rays. And what I did is I covered this whole tube with lead foil, because the X-rays will not go through lead. PB, the periodic table symbol for lead is P, like Paul. PB, lead. Yeah, and the X-rays come out in this direction. So I'd cover all this with lead foil and leave a hole, a gap right where that grain is, because the X-rays are going to come out that little hole. And then I put a toilet roll. Like here's the roll for a paper towel. I'd cut off a toilet roll right about here. About 5 inches worth, and I would put that up against the X-ray tube. X-ray tube is about this big. So if this is the X-ray tube, then I'd have the toilet roll going this way, so that I knew just visually that the X-rays are going to come out this hole. And I could safely move this around so that I knew which way the X-rays were going. Yeah, so I was a little compass mentis, because X-rays are dangerous. What the heck? So I wanted to be careful not to X-ray myself, because the X-rays come out of there continuously until you. So when you're sitting in a dentist chair, or if you got your arm inside this machine, and everyone gets out of the room, that's a clear signal that, oh shit, what are they about to do to me? They're all running out of the room and I'm in the room. I think I want to go with them. They tie you down, say, don't move. Yeah. Anyway, so you're in a dentist chair, and they put this thing up against you, this big frickin' thing. It doesn't have to be that big. It's this simple. It may not be simple to some people, but it's simple to me. So they showed here that it's 3 millimeters in dimension. A 3 millimeter disc, which is like 3 millimeters is the size of my fingernail. Okay, so inside the X-ray tube is a fingernail size piece of tungsten at an angle. Remember I showed you there was an angle, and when the cathode, when you have about as I remember, it was about 70,000 volts, 50,000 volts, 40,000 volts, something like that, which was the power supply driving a typical TV, a vacuum tube TV, back in the day, as they say, in 1960s, black and white TV. That had a circuitry of about 50,000 volts. That's what you would need. So, anyway, when you're in the dentist, and he's going to, all of a sudden, he puts a little piece of film in there, and he shoots through the film so that the X-rays go through the teeth, and then come up against the film, and it projects a picture, because some of your bone, the bone tissue of your jawbone, block some of the X-rays, and in shades, and you can see a black and white picture of your tooth and your jawbone, because the X-rays have gone through the tooth and the jawbone, but more in some places and less X-rays in the insides of what the tooth decay is. That the dentist could see exactly where the hole is in your tooth and how deep it is and how close it is to the root of your tooth and all that kind of stuff. So, but that's how an x-ray works. So it's very easy. So I took the power supply out of a black and white TV, the transformers and so forth, and the anode and the cathode, and I'd connect it to the proper side of the x-ray tube, and add a low voltage circuit on the cathode, which was DC current, and you'd adjust, like with a volume control resistor, you'd adjust the brightness of the cathode, so you had to get that voltage right, which was not a problem. And so you heat up that cathode, and you apply the, all you gotta do is turn on and off the high voltage. So, and that could be like I think I had a wall switch, a little switch, you click it up on, click it off, and you just click it on, off, like that. And that would, deal with the high voltage. You do it on the transformer side of the high voltage circuit. You just turn it on and off for, like 2 or 3 seconds worth of x-rays. That's all it takes to expose the film. That's what you're doing. You're exposing the film. So, down here, let's put it in red. This would be your target spot right there. We can do it better than that, can't we? So we're just going to draw a red target right here. Done. There you go. Save the photos. Okay, we just saved that image to photos. So now we come down here to my photo album. Cancel this. And let's go back on this. And there it is. Ooh, I only got a piece of that. Oh, I wanted rats. So we have to go back to here, yeah. When I did the Anyway, so here's, we want to save this. We want this. Turn off the pen. We don't want the pen anymore. We're just going to come right in here and grab this picture of the x-ray tube so that my son Daniel gets it's just this. Look at this monstrous machine. They make this shit so big. Oh, here we go. Look at this. This even gives you a better schematic picture. Ooh, look at this one. This is exactly what I'm talking about. It's what you're talking about. That's what you're talking about right there. Let's touch that one. Yeah, these diagrams are exactly what I'm talking about. Anode to cathode. X-ray. The X-ray window. This is the principle I'm talking about right there. But that other picture I already say, this one here. Whoa, it keeps changing. Oh, here it is. I'm doing the old expando thing here, and it's getting nervous. Keep shifting down. Maybe I can go nice and slow. I can sneak up on it. All right, well, there we go. Let's get this one before it goes away again. I think I already have this, but let's just get it again since we did a little search on this. Let's not lose it. Save it. And it's so fuzzy you can't even see it. Ooh. Is this a better one? Let's do this one because I can see it better. Bigger is better. Copper stem. Focus. There you go. There's a filament, electron cloud. And the electrons come off that heated plate and they go in the direction of the tungsten. See, tungsten target. Focal spot on tungsten target. So the electrons hit that tungsten, and X-rays go south. That's exactly how it works. I've probably done this 4 times already, but I'm just so happy that I found what exactly what I was describing. Yeah, this kid ain't no dummy. He knows what's going on. Now here you got where the plate rotates. You know, this would be a Pyrex glass tube and a tungsten filament, and it should be at an angle because it does come off tangentially like that. And we're just going to bombard that tungsten for, like a couple seconds. So it won't burn a hole in the tungsten because the potential, the voltage is high voltage, low amperage. So it's not going to be a spark. No, it'll be invisible electrons hitting the tungsten, and there'll be, low energy X-rays that'll pop off that. Yeah. So there's, now here they have water circulating in there to keep it cool, like at the X-rays. If you're going to have it, a constant blast of X-rays, which would not be the case. Anyway, that's what I did. There's another schematic diagram of how this works. And you flow of X-rays because of the toilet roll. If you're making one for industry, you would, you'd engineer it out of Pyrex glass and all this stuff. But anyway, that's how that works. Let's go to my photo albums and there we go. Now here I got it 3 or 4 times. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a good one. And yeah, here's that's part of what I was drawing. Yeah, we missed the tungsten part up top, but I can draw it again on here. This is the one I drew on. Cool. Got it done. So I'm not crazy, as the rest of you thought. No. I know, but, yeah. I think Daniel was looking at me like saying, "What are you trying to tell me? You trying to trick me with some this tungsten stuff?" I'm going to send him a couple. Yep. It's 10 o'clock. I've been talking for 2 hours. That's kind of my unofficial limit. Anyway, I didn't make the tungsten tube. I just went down to Canal Street in the lower part of Manhattan, and there was a couple of Army surplus stores where they have all this Army surplus, and you just go there every couple of weeks when they get new stuff. I tell the guy, I said, I'm looking for a like a X-ray tube, for the Army dentists. And they'd have to sometimes replace the X-ray tube because it would break or something or other. So if you happen to come across an Army surplus X-ray tube, just put it aside for me. And next time I'm here, I'll buy it from you. It's not going to be, who the hell's going to want an X-ray tube except for me doing an experiment. High school experiment. So I have a low budget, if you know what I mean. Yep. Anyway, I'm looking now for a logo for a New York Post. It's a very classical looking thing. New York Post right here. Bingo. Let's see what this is the covers for all in May. So we can pick. We're in July here. And 2025. Submit. These are all the covers. Ooh. You got to be kidding. Tired of winning? Nah, win. Let's see what this day's. Flood of tears. Oh my God. Whew. Texas deluge of water kills. Well, now we know it's 51 plus 27 girls that are missing. So these kinds of floodwaters is like the rapids. 5 camp girls dead. Well, they found the bodies of 5, so they know they're dead, but they haven't found. There are 27 missing. So did they reduce the 27 to some lower number? So the swollen Guadalupe River in southern Texas, Saturday night, at least 43. They got 43 bodies, 15 of them children. But 22 of them remain missing. The river rose 26 feet in 45 minutes. Wow. So that's coming up pretty quick. But flood alert went out at 4 a.m. when most people were sleeping. So these guys got caught sleeping? Oh boy. Anyway, so flood of tears. We'll hear more about that, hours of the day. I mean, they got helicopters. They're, this is almost, this search is like prisoners, a prisoner escape search. They are all over this area trying to find these flood victims. And hopefully they're not dead bodies, that they're alive. Some people are alive. This is the 5 that are dead. Look at these kids. They're young kids. They're 12-year-olds. Just looking at them. This girl needs some dental treatment. I should talk. Anyway, so that's the Post. I was just going to see what the cover would be if they had any cover with that. They did. All right, so I did good. I found a way of drawing pictures for you, so you knew what was going on with the X-ray. Anyway, I was telling my kid, circling back to why the hell are you telling these stories? I was telling Daniel a couple of nights ago on how I made a little X-ray machine in my basement using Army surplus parts and parts out of a black and white TV that someone threw out curbside. So I grabbed it, took it apart, and grabbed the high voltage circuit there. And the low voltage circuit that was feeding the filament. Yeah. I could identify both those circuits. And comes off a transformer. So I have a transformer for the filament part of the circuit. And then there was another transformer that created the 50,000 volts that you had to apply to the through the anode and the cathode in the tube itself. And there was a pin pins that came out of the opposite ends of the X-ray tube. And then there'd be an obvious, not an opening, because it was a vacuum tube where they sucked out all the air. If there was a crack in the tube, then air gets in there, tube's no good. You can't have that. You have to inspect the tube and make sure it's fully evacuated. As soon as you put current on the cathode, if it's not evacuated, that'll like burn. Because there's, a wrapping. It's Alnico or what is the film material? It's a mixture of tungsten, copper filament. And if you apply a voltage to that, where it's not in a vacuum, it'll start to oxidize. Because if you crack the vacuum tube, then air gets in it. And what's in air? Oxygen. So if you heat up the heating element and it's not fully evacuated, meaning there's not a full vacuum, which means it pulls out all the air, then the filament doesn't burn, doesn't oxidize. That's the true test. You put the current on the heating element, and if it just heats up the heating element and there's a very slight glow to it, so you turn the lights down, so you can notice that glow, then you're in good shape. And then, only until you apply the 50,000 volts across, on the inside of that tube, that's when the X-rays are created. And the electrons bounce off that tungsten plate and head down, or head tangentially from the focal plane on that tungsten disc that's in there. Yeah. X-rays come straight down. They are invisible, so you can't see the X-rays. So it's not like a light. You could put a little blue light in the way, somewhere inside there, just so that like a little blue light would sip out the end of that tube. So that's, watch out. That's the hot zone. And you don't want to X-ray your legs or your knees, because that'll burn the skin. That's how you make yourself a little X-ray machine. I did it. I had a hamster. I X-rayed the hell out of that little hamster. I got pictures of his whole body. I got pictures of his head. I got pictures of his feet. I extend out his little foot. Hit him with some X-rays. If you do too much, it's usually time. I didn't have a way of varying the voltage. If you turn on the voltage part, that's 50,000 volts. That's it. I couldn't make it 35,000 or adjust it up to 55,000. There was no way to adjust. It was a fixed amount of voltage. So you just turn it on for a short period of time. If 50,000 volts is too much. Maybe 40,000 volts would have been better. Well, I had what I had. And it was somewhere between 40 and 50,000. Present in a... that's what's required to generate the electron beam, which you would see, from the back end of that. You'd see the image that was caused by the electrons coming off, into and bombarding, it was bombarding a, what do you call it? The tungsten. Yep. So you just turn it on or off, for a short period of time, just enough to create enough X-rays to go through the foot of the hamster, and then hit a piece of film, negative film. So you'd have to buy some film, and have it stretched out in a container that was sealed from all light. You'd expose the film. That would go, through the packaging. So that's how that worked. And then after you expose the film with the X-rays, then you take it to another place and put a plate down there. It says Jim Wilson on it. You can just write it on the printer paper, on the printing paper. Yeah. They're looking at now that the tax bill is all signed up. Now the let's see what this headline news is coming up on Flipboard. As you can see on your screen left, best Prime Day Apple deals, tariff-proof savings, iPods, iPads, notebooks. I'm looking through these. The one big mistake you should never make with your passport is don't let it get stolen. In other words, don't put it in your purse, because people steal purses. Put it in your pants. Put it in, your... stick it literally in your pants, in a tummy tuck. Someplace other than in your purse, or hanging out of your back pocket where someone can snatch it. Because passports, they can attempt to get in there and change out the picture, put another picture on top of the picture. Woman mauled in zoo. Okay, it's the next article coming up. There we go. Trump promised no taxes on tips. Then came the fine print. Yeah, let's see what that article says. Let's see if we can find that article. Let's see. Everyone is now reading the fine print. Well, I did the fine print on me, and it was... There we go. Here's the story. Let's see. Wall Street Journal, huh? Let's get up to here and see if we can... So only the first $25,000 in tips, only the first $25,000 worth of tips are free from taxes. Then they pay 7.65 in what do you call it? Combined payroll tax. So that's the story right there. So they don't talk about the Social Security. Well, I can tell you, it's $12,000 worth of offset to your income. Well, if I'm getting $60,000 worth of Social Security, there's only one way. Well, there's one way they can eliminate the tax on Social Security, is to give me a standard deduction of $60,000, because that's my income on my Social Security. So just give me a Social Security deduction of $60,000. That covers my Social Security income. Then there'd be no tax on Social Security, because that would be deleted from my income. I just would not declare That's my Social Security income. I just leave it off. However, TurboTax wants to deal with it. But the law didn't come out that way. It said you're going to get $12,000 worth of benefit. Well, if I got $60,000 worth of combined income and I'm only getting $12,000 benefit, I'm getting like 20% of no tax on Social Security. It's supposed to be 100%. They shouldn't be taxing that kind of a benefit anyway. If it was an annuity, you wouldn't pay. If I got $60,000 annuity paid at, I wouldn't pay. That would be exempt. Okay, so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And it's Sunday. It's July 6th. It's 2 days after July 4th. And I can tell you, you can play my track back in the beginning part of my track. I can even go, where was, oh, there it is, yeah. Woo! This, right here, these, as we did, I turned on the volume there, and I cut back on I had to turn off Epidemic. I put him on pause. There we go. You can see the rooftops of some of the. But if you can put headphones on or earbuds, the sound is. Here's another clip.